Hi guys, welcome to KLU. On this very sunny, lovely day, thank you for coming inside. I'm Pia, I'm one of the student ambassadors, and that's Xenia, our lead student ambassador. We're always here, all of us in the red t-shirts are right everywhere, so you can always ask us and ask any questions that you have. We also have our library services and career services and everything on the pillars on the side. Everyone's always very welcome to be approached. So whatever question you might have, just come ahead and ask us.
And thank you, Pia. As Pia said, I'm Xenia. I'm a student at KLU now since 3 years. I'm in my last semester of my bachelor's. I have to say, throughout these 3 years at KLU, you don't grow only as academically, but you also grow as a person. You're given opportunities here. You can come up with your own club. You can create your own initiatives. You meet real-life entrepreneurs, and you have case studies, workshops that all round you up as this really good person to enter the job market and succeed in it. So without further ado, I'll welcome you to our open day, and I'll hand over to Professor Barrow to do the introduction of our programs.
Thank you. I don't need this because I have this. Okay. So let me start the presentation. I hope it works. It does. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you found your way. So for us at universities, it's a bit like farmers. The weather is always wrong, right? Sometimes it's too rainy, sometimes too sunny. I have to admit that yesterday I hoped, let it rain, let it rain, let it rain. Because we know from the past, the more rain we have, the fuller the audience is. Now, we had the first sunny day today since, I think, a year, yeah? And so, you know, quite a few people choose to go to the Elbe or to the Ulster, which is fine. We don't blame them for that. But even more so, we are happy that you found the way, and we try to make our best to make this a worthwhile experience. My name is Christian Mohr. I'm Dean of Programs here at KLU, and I try to give you an idea on what KLU is and stands for in the next about half an hour. And those of you who are in the process of selecting a university have probably seen such a chart in the past already, where universities present themselves. Yeah, you have a shiny thing in a website or in a brochure, and where they basically say, we are the greatest. Yeah? So we are the greatest. We have also such a chart, and you see that here. So we say we are a research university with the highest academic rigor, and we have proof for that. We are number 2 in terms of research productivity. We have small classes, very interactive teaching. We have truly international atmosphere with students from all over the world, with faculty from all over the world, with staff from all over the world. We have internships included. We have a semester abroad included. We have strong connections to the practice, and we have a quite nice location here in the Hafen City. Now, the difficult part for you as parents or potential students is to find out, is it just a shiny website? Is it just a shiny leaflet? Is it just a facade? Or is there substance behind it? And that's what I'll try to, convince you that, we're not a shiny facade, but we really have the substance that justifies these bold claims that we make here. So I will promise a lot through this presentation, and we will promise a lot through this day. But we are here to keep these promises, not just to talk, but also to deliver. Now, quite a few of you are interested in the Bachelor program, if I'm not mistaken. Could you show your hand who is interested in the Bachelor program? Most of you. So there is a challenge for some of you to get an understanding what business is about, because you come from school and you have maybe a certain idea what business BWL is encompassing. Now, you'll be surprised that there are many more topics probably than you would expect that you find at a business school like KLU. So, for example, there's the topic of humanitarian logistics. Yeah? So you see Maria doing that, where you try to find responses for disasters. If there's something happening, a earthquake in, for example, Taiwan, you need the responses. If there's a flood somewhere in Africa, you need to bring in all the resources from the United Nations. And people have to find systems to react. And that is, for example, what Maria does and her research team. You have different cultures you have to work with. If you go down the river and see, for example, Airbus, Airbus company that has French and German and Spanish and English and whatever shareholders and employees, then you have very mixed international teams, and that's not so easy to work with sometimes. And how to do this, how to work within teams with different cultures, that you learn from Christian Tröster. International trade, a big topic. We are in Hamburg, we have the port, but it's not just about trade, it's also finding a fair balance between the northern and the southern hemisphere, between developed countries, emerging markets. That's the topic Marcos Ritel is looking into in his international trade studies. Leadership, a big topic, right? So many challenges. We hear about millennials and Gen Z and how that is different. We also have the topic of home office and whatever. So you probably don't meet physically anymore. How do you lead in this environments? Niels van Kwakenbeke is telling you here. We hear a lot, if you follow the news, that we have challenges in terms of converting industry, operations, but also transportation to account for our climate goals, have a transition towards a greener environment, and shipping has particular challenges. And if you see these big container carriers, going down the Elbe, this thick smoke coming out, that's probably not the most nicest stuff they put out there. And so a big question is there, how can you make this green? How can you come up with new technologies? It's a topic that, for example, Gordon Wilmsmeyer looks into, how we can make a port of Hamburg and the ships coming in and out more sustainable. And then we have someone like Jan Becker, who looks into customer behavior, so how to stimulate word of mouth, how to make people happy. And that's what we are about here, because that's what we live off, happy students who give word of mouth. Now, these are different topics that you probably would not have expected, all of them at a business school, because you feel business, that's just a kind of myopic topic. And the same is also true if you think of the backgrounds of the professors. We are a business school, everyone is kind of teaching business. But if you look for the backgrounds, so for example, Maria is an engineer by training, Christian is a sociologist, Marcos is an economist from his background, Niels is from psychology, Gordon is a geographer, and at least Jan Becker, he did really study business. So we have quite a diverse faculty in that sense that we have very different backgrounds, although we all gather around this topic of business. If you remember, the first bullet points I had on my We Are Wonderful chart was about research. Now, you can wonder why that is. First of all, it makes us different to other schools, other private schools particularly. Because in Germany, there are very few private institutions who are actually research schools. Most of them are more in this applied science domain, so Fachhochschule, Duale Hochschule. And there's a reason for that, because being a research school is awfully expensive, because you need all these professors. It costs a lot of money, do a lot of research, and travel the world and go to conferences and are very busy in finding new solutions for the world's problem. Now, you can wonder as a student, what do I care? Wouldn't I rather have a professor who's here in Hamburg and doing the stuff? What do I gain from those people who look around, travel the world, and have all these research done? Now, if you think about the challenges of today, I think we can agree on are dominating, right? Like digitalization, sustainable transformation, or something. And now, if you think about how research works, it's like, we do a little research project, and that can take 3-4 years to get the data and write everything up. Then it takes another 1-2 years to get it published in a good journal, because there's a process, it's quite cumbersome review process. And then it may be another 2-3 years until it's picked up by a textbook. And so if you are at a school that is just teaching, where people just pick a textbook and teach you textbook knowledge, you can be sure that this knowledge is 6 or 8 years old. Now think about, AI. Do you want to have the 8-year-old knowledge of that? Does that help you? Is that something that you look for? Probably not. Because we have areas that are very, very dynamic. And the advantage of a school like KLU is that you are taught by those who research these topics, who come up with the findings, while they come up with the findings. So we have this 5, 6, 7 year advantage in knowledge, and you can participate in gathering this knowledge. You can write your thesis on topics like AI and sustainability and so on, and you can be part of these research centers that we have in different areas like sustainability or humanitarian logistics or maritime stuff or food safety or whatever we have. So you can be part of that. And this is a major advantage that you have at a research school over pure teaching schools. And you can see in these metrics that we have, for example, we are one of the very few schools who has the right to grant PhDs. So we're, I think, one of the very few private schools where you can get from a bachelor to a PhD. I think there are just half a dozen of them in Germany. And what you also see is that, if you look at the faculty that we have, their background, their CVs, as far as you can judge, but if you know the names of the universities they've gone through, then you already have a certain confirmation of the quality. So I always say, our professors, didn't go to Harvard or Stanford to buy a T-shirt, but to get a degree or teach there. And we also have students who then in the end get accepted in Stanford or in MIT or the like. So top-notch research, that's an asset, and that sets us apart from many, many other schools in the private scene in Germany. Now, another thing that is special at KLU is that's a truly international place. You notice I speak English with a German accent, although I have a French name, I'm German, and you notice probably. But we have a very international environment, not just the student body, where, depending on which program you are, more than 50% are from abroad. We have, I think now, we say 55, but I think it's 62 now, different nationalities that we have had here. And that extends also to the broad environment of the university. If you look outside, our staff members come from all over the world. Yeah? So you see people from, Albania or India or Colombia or Mexico or Spain or whatever. So that is very international, and also our faculty is very international. You see some faces here. So Shushu, our finance professor, she's from China. Rod Frankton from the United States. We have Marcos, who's from Brazil. We have Alan McKinnon, who is British, or should I say Scottish, he would prefer. We have Miriam Meyer, he's from the Netherlands, and we have Günter Lang, who's from Bavaria. And that's how inclusive we are, that even people from Bavaria are happy here, right? So anyone from Bavaria that feels offended? Sorry. I just realized our president is also from Bavaria. Probably I should skip that joke for the next thing. Okay, but we are that inclusive, if you're from northern Germany, southern Germany, whatever, everyone is happy here. And a key part of that experience, particularly in the bachelor, but also in the master's program, is that we have an integrated stay abroad. Yeah, that's, I think, a very important thing, that it's part of the curriculum. It's not that something you have to organize yourself, all the thing, and then you have to be worried about whether your courses get accepted or whether your credits are the right ones. No, we have a procedure where we sit together and then we agree on what courses you take, where you want to go. There's, I think, 60 plus different exchange partners where you can make choices and go to remote places, go to Uruguay or go to Taiwan or something, or you stay closer, I don't know, in Netherlands or Austria, whatever you feel is right for you. And you see the faces of the students traveling the world and making really great experiences. And it's not just our students going abroad, it's also the students from abroad coming to KLU, which then help us to get this kind of real international experience. You're in Hamburg, but we bring the world here. It's really a global, international experience here at KLU, and I can really recommend this. And we have a few students or interested students, potential students joining us from all over the world, I think, and that's sort of a reality that, for example, we have large contingents of students coming from Latin America or from India or from Ukraine or whatever. Yeah, so Africa, so all over the world we have students from. Now, and they come here, and as you can see, and I think there are study trip, there are campus tours planned for later in the afternoon at quite nice facilities. Yeah. So for those who are currently not in Hamburg, we have a typical April day today. Yeah, it's 25 degrees, sunshine. That's typical Hamburg weather. So sadly, you can't see that right now, but you would enjoy if you join us in September, where the weather is similar. Also expect 25 degrees and sun. So we have a campus that's I think quite nicely located here, right in the middle, where, for example, international trade, where the port is happening. We have the Elbe right in front of us, where you can go down, have a coffee, and sit down when the sun is shining. We have the Elbe across the bay. We have the inner city. We have this shopping center coming up here. We'll be very intrigued how that works out. And you know what else? 10 minutes to Reeperbahn. I don't know what that means. Particularly if there are parents involved here. I think that's a mistake. And you know, if you see here what we have, you know, very modern facilities. We have a very nice library, everything digital. The rooms are equipped for everything. Yeah, so we survive COVID in the best possible ways. We have a student lounge. We have a fitness center here. So quite nice facilities to make that life very pleasurable at KLU. And to make it really nice, and again, what makes a difference to other schools is the team of staff that really supports you in any step of the process here at KLU. Right from the very beginning, you see how many people we have here, right? So I think it's probably 1-to-1 that we can bring in, yeah? So in terms of students helping out, but also, you know, staff members from all the different departments, from recruitment, from admissions, helping you with visa, helping you with travel, helping you with accommodation, the program design to make sure that you pick the right courses. Career service, obviously a very important topic to bring you into the system. How is this done with applying for a job if you're in the Bachelor, or how is it done in Germany, in Europe, if you come from very far away? How is the system working? What are the pitfalls that you should avoid? We have the international office that takes care of all these exchange students going abroad, but also coming in here to KLU. And you know, we have also for the facilities here, you know, with the digital staff and everything, quite a good support. And that is something that really sets us apart from, you know, for example, a state school. So I was there before I came here at the University of Hamburg. But if you have 1,000 or 1,500 students in a classroom, you can't provide the same level of support. It's just impossible. And not because you're an evil person, but it's just sort of you don't have the resources. We do have these resources to take care of every individual student and every individual need. And these are the people who make that possible. In terms of programs, there will be different booths outside where you can ask specific questions. So I'll just very quickly run through the different programs that we have. So if we start on the undergrad segment, we have the so-called preparation program. That is for students where their high school degree is not sufficient to start studying. So that's, for example, somewhere from, I don't know, India, China, Ukraine, US or something. So if you're unsure, reach out and we'll show you how we bring you to that point where you can study in Germany. And we have the Bachelor in Business Administration, broad, general business Bachelor, where we have, though, in the end, very specific profiles where you can already specialize a bit. Yeah, so international management, sustainable management, supply chain management, and digital management innovation. You can also mix and match different topics in the end. If you're interested, let us know. We'll explain you the details of the program. I think here Alexander Himmel, the academic director, is also up front, so he's probably content-wise the best person to talk to. Then we have the graduate programs. So our regular MSc programs, you see a Master of Science in International Management and a Master of Science in Global Logistics and Supply Chain Management, which is our largest program, probably one of the most international programs, where you already then specialize in this kind of international supply chain setting and really sharpen what we call your operations mindset, really be ready for that world outside. We have different versions of that, 4 semesters, 3 semesters, with stay abroad, without stay abroad. For the details, please reach out and we'll explain what works best for you. And then we have probably also some who are already in a bit advanced stages of their career, already had a bit of work experience. And there we have the executive education, a part-time MBA we have here in Leadership Supply Chain Management. So typical MBA, but with a specific flavor on this supply chain aspect. And we have a somewhat new program, the part-time master in sustainable management and operations. That is a program aiming at students who want to really change their companies, become responsible for, you know, this sustainable transformation within their business units or within their company. and that's a very interesting program that just started the cohort in March. And so if you're interested, reach out to us. That is also very worthwhile. Now, all of this costs money. Yeah, so that probably doesn't come as a surprise. And we here in Germany are somewhat used to an environment where much of the education is free, at least in a state context, which is not the case abroad. Yeah, so if you're from India or if you're from the US or wherever, you know that education costs a lot of money. Now, the question is who pays for that? I always say, look to the left, look to the right. If there's a smiling parent, you're good. Yeah? Okay. So now we have some parents who don't really love their children and wouldn't pay. So then we have to find other alternatives. Yeah. So and one would be scholarships, for example. We have different areas for scholarships, so performance-oriented, academic performance-oriented, and stuff like that. If you are, for example, part of the German Olympic team or any national team, we have a sports scholarship. So if we have any athlete among us who's up for Paris, good news, you'll get a scholarship. The same is true if you are part of the academic scholarships, the large ones in Germany, the merit-based ones, so Studienstiftung, Stiftung der Deutschen Wirtschaft. Again, we have a cooperation. If you are part of that, you will also have a free study here. Now, if that is not your game, you are not really Olympic level sports person or the 1.0 candidate, there's still ways of handling this. And one is, for example, Brain Capital. That's a student loan system. It's a bit like the BAföG system, where you get a credit that takes over the tuition fees, and then you have to pay back only after you have finished your studies. There's also a bit of a grace period, and only if you reach a certain minimum salary. And if you earn a lot, you have to pay a bit more, and if you don't earn anything, you don't have to pay anything back. Yeah, so it's a bit risky, but we are very confident that our students get a good salary and get a good job. Now, a typical discussion I have with German potential students, parents is, well, why should I pay all this money here at KLU when I, for example, University of Hamburg or something, get it for free, more or less. It's not perfectly for free, but it's not a big amount. Yeah, so like a few thousand something for the semester ticket and so on, and the Studierendenwerk, which you also have here, right? We have the same Studierendenwerk stuff that you have at state schools, and that is true. That's a fair point, but you have to consider there are certain constraints that may not be so visible on the first glance, and you already learn a first concept of business, and that is opportunity cost. So if you study at KLU, in the Bachelor, for example, we can guarantee that you'll be done after 6 semesters, and that includes 1 or 2 internships, and then includes a stay abroad. If you try the same at any larger state school, I can guarantee you will not be able to do this in 6 semesters, but most of you would take 7 or 8 semesters, and if you have 7 or 8 semesters, then it's a year longer that you study, and in this year where our students are already in the job market, they earn more money, obviously, as they had paid previously for the study program. Yeah, so the return on investment is quite short in terms of timing. And that is to be considered, right? So with the expenses you have here comes resources. And if you don't pay at other places, they don't have these resources, and that manifests then, for example, in longer times to study. Now, I made this bold claim that all of our students get good jobs, and there's a reason why I can do that, because we have very close relationships to lots of industries, and we are very proud that at KLU we don't have this kind of stereotypical career. There are some universities who say everyone does a startup, or everyone goes to McKinsey, or everyone does, investment banking or something. No, at KLU we have a very diverse set of partners and a very diverse set of careers that students, that graduates of KLU pick up. Yeah. So, and you see, in terms of the different industries, I think it's easier to see that, with some tangible examples. So we have students who go to these big global brands, the BMWs or Mercedes or Porsche or whatever, right? So the big DAX corporations. We have students who go to the local heroes like Chibo or Otto or Airbus or something. We have students who go for the big consulting firms. Yeah? So both the strategy consultants like the Boston Consulting or McKinsey or Roland Berger or something, but also Big Four in terms of auditing, KPMG and so on. But we also have students who go different routes. Yeah? So, for example, someone like Christopher here, I put up, quite a few who have a family business background, right? So, and he did his master's 8 years ago, and a week after that, his father came and said, "Okay, Christopher, now you got your master's, and you better take over the company." And there was something like 7,000 employees, and I think 600 million in sales or so. Yeah, so that now taking over the next generation of a family business. Or if you call, for example, the United Nations and say, I'd like to talk to the guy responsible for the supply chain, you end up at Jakob Hein, who not only did his master's but also his PhD here. And so we have quite a few students who have careers at NGOs, at supranational organizations, at small players here in Hamburg, set up their own business, being entrepreneurs, advancing careers in all fields. So, for example, Dominic, he was the first board member we had out of our MBA. So this diversity, that's something that is very special for KLU. Depending on your interest, there are all sorts of different careers possible. Now, how does it work? We have a fully digital application process, and there is for the bachelors, there's some interviews involved. And it's obviously, you notice 24, that's the application deadline, so you're good, yeah, don't worry, yeah, it's not last year. So what we like to do, particularly in this Bachelor program, the interviews are not so much about finding out whether you're good at math or something, but it's more to get a feeling on what type of personality you have, what type of person you are, because we have somewhat smaller classes, and we really like to put a team together. Yeah? So sometimes you have people who are math nerds, sometimes you have people who can organize an event or something, and you need both. Yeah? You can't have a class full of math nerds, and you just can't have a class full of event people, yeah? So you have a good mixture. That's what we're looking into. And so deadline is 15th of July, so that's the typical German deadline for applications. But the earlier you apply, the better, because we have a rolling admission process. So the earlier you apply, the earlier you get the notification you're in, and then you can start planning with housing, or if you're from abroad with visa or anything. And also, if you're a potential bachelor student, you have that out of your mind. You can focus on your Abitur and not have to worry about your future plans. Yeah, so that's the process. And if you want to know what kind of materials, what type of certificates and visa and whatever you need, we have the colleagues here from admissions who can help you, walk you through these different streams. And then in the end, you can go outside here on the stairs, throw your hats, and that's in 2 or 3 years' time. You can stand there. You see up front Mr. Kühne and his wife looking happy, Dr. Dreger, the head of the foundation, me in my costume, yeah. And that is for me as a dean always the judgment day. Yeah, so graduation day when all the parents come again and all the students come again, and then basically I had promised a lot 2, 3, 4 years before that, and I have to ask, so were you happy? Did we deliver? And as you can see, I'm relaxed. Yeah? I never had an issue at a graduation. So people come up usually and say, yeah, you really promised a lot. Yeah? You had a big mouthful of things that you promised, but you know what? KLU delivered. And that's what we are about. It's not a facade, it's not blah, it's about delivery. And so we would be very happy to have you here starting in September or at later years if you're looking already for 25 or 26. And if you have any questions, if there are any things that you want to have information on, please feel free to reach out to any one of us here or to any one of our wonderful colleagues at both the recruiting team as well as the admission team. Yeah? Looking forward to see many of you here on the Welcome Week Day in the 1st of September. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for the presentation, Professor Barrow. And now I would hand over to our journalist, Sebastian, to give you an overview of the Masters. Who is interested in the Masters should stay in the room. I think it's very valuable. And then who is interested in the Bachelors is free to go outside and ask the questions to admissions or the other booths. Thank you.
Ja, wunderbar. Okay, well, Good afternoon. Hello. Nice to see you. Well, first of all, if everybody's a German speaker, I can also do it in German. But if there's at least one English speaker, I will definitely do it in English. So yeah, okay, I will do it in English. That's what I prepared for. I just wanted to ask. Hi, my name's Sebastian, and now we will spend an hour together talking about a master program and what are your options, how to finance it, how to be successful with it, how to apply for it. So this is quite a lot of stuff that I'm going to tell you. Just a few words on me. My background is I studied economics and politics in Erfurt as my undergraduate degree. I have 2 master degrees, one in economics from Nottingham and one in education management from Cairo and Ludwigsburg. Kind of a crazy mix. I was quite a lot abroad as a student. I wrote 2 books, and professionally, this is basically my side hustle. My main gig is that I'm the head of University Future Festival, which is the largest event on innovation and higher education in the German-speaking region. That's about me, but now about what I'm going to tell you today. First of all, about all the pictures in there. It's all AI generated. And I know we're all seeing on LinkedIn AI generated content all the time. I really put some effort into it to try to not have it look like it's AI generated and to have a certain style. So all pictures AI generated except the photo of myself. So strategies about finding the right master. The first thing is financing your master. I'm sure that a lot of people will be quite interested in that. Getting into your program and thriving professionally. So I have a few ideas for your professional development, but that's going to be the shortest part of this talk. So choosing the right master degree. The first thing when you choose your degree program is you should ask yourself the right questions. What do I mean by that? Ask yourself, what are your values and beliefs? You know, what guides you in your life? What kind of work gives you a sense of purpose and fulfillment? Because during the Bachelor, you will probably have studied something broad. Most people do that. During the Master, you normally specialize. You will focus on a certain area where you might want to learn more, where you might want to work. What kind of work are you actually looking for? Successes and challenges. What previous experiences have shaped me the most, and why? What challenges have I overcome, and what have I learned from them? Positively, I can do it, or negatively, I never want to do that again. That might also be something. Developing a vision for the future. How do you envision your ideal professional future? I mean, it's quite obvious that you will learn during the way. You know, like your vision of the future doesn't have to fulfill itself, but developing one is really helpful in. For finding your path. What role does my work play in my ideal life scenario? How can I best use my skills and talents? And what am I still missing? What skills and knowledge do I need to achieve my goals? And this can be quite basic. When I was at the end of my undergrad studies, my English wasn't that great. I had good school English. I always had a B in English in school, and I really wanted to get better in English, and I will never get rid of this German accent of mine, but having done a master's degree in England has drastically improved my language skills. It's quite basic, but it's also quite helpful, really. So the first strategic tip would be reflect before you search. Think about yourself, think about what you want, what you can do before you start searching. Okay, then second thing is we're living in a time of change, and that is quite this is a statement that has always been true and will always be true because changes all the time. But it is something that I think we all realize is something more pressing today. I mean, I'm of course talking about the many crises that we face as politically as a society when it comes to the climate crisis, when it comes about political instability, when it comes to drastic changes in how our economy works. And just one thought. If 20 years ago you had asked someone what would be the most stable and reliable job you could take after high school, one possible answer would have been, work at a bank, just do an apprenticeship at a bank and work there. And today you would probably see this as probably the most unstable thing. Not because we have something against banks, at least I don't have anything against banks, I'm using them as a service provider, but because they are downsizing the workforce drastically. It would not be a wise choice to go into that market labor-wise right now, with that in mind. So, change has become faster, and what does this mean for your career? And of course, there are a lot of things that we cannot foresee. We couldn't foresee the war in Ukraine or the pandemic. Those are crises that hit us and that we have to deal with. There are things that we can foresee. Climate crisis will continue. So sustainability is something as an answer to this, the change of how we do business. This is a mega trend that will continue. Connectivity, AI, demographic change, mobility, new work, just to name a few. Those are decade-spanning trends that you can use for your work, you can use for your career choice. You wanted to take a photo. I'm sorry. Okay, I was too fast. Okay, now. Okay, I'm really sorry. Okay, here we go. So you can, I would advise you, study for the future, not for the past. See what you can know about the future, and then study this. And one thing, I mean, I've been using the word crisis a lot. I think that a good crisis manager is always had skills that were searched for. But I think we're living in times where somebody who's good in crisis management is even more in demand than maybe 10, 20 years ago. Okay, now for the setup of your degree program. There's a lot of choices that you can make. You can do a double degree. You study at 2 institutions in different countries. A lot of business schools offer those opportunities. You then have 2 degrees in the same subject. Having 2 degrees is not really that interesting. The interesting part is that you study in 2 places at the same time. It can be really interesting. You can study part-time or online. You can do MBAs. You can do a dual master. A dual master would be that you do a traineeship at a company and do a master at the same time. There are a lot of quite attractive options for that. A lot of companies, most large companies actually offer such programs, sometimes with really great business schools or other universities. And you get paid from the start, and they pay your fees, tuition fees, which is quite interesting. Most people, though, do a standard full-time master. So most of you will probably do something like that. Oh, Zeitpunkt, I'm sorry. I did not perfectly translate that. That would be the timing of your master, but the rest of the slide is in English. So when do you do your master's degree? Straight away after your bachelor's, you keep on doing what you're doing. Most people do that. After 1 or 2 years, that's what I did actually. I did one of those undergrad programs which did not have a clear, where it wasn't that clear what you would do with it afterwards. It was called Staatswissenschaften in English. That would be governmental studies, economics, politics, law. So I really, after my bachelor degree, I really didn't know what I wanted to do professionally. So what I did was 1 year of internships. That was actually quite helpful. Later, my first job, I got through an internship, not at a company where I did an internship, but a company where I met people through that internship. It was a company that worked together with where I was doing my internship. So it was really, really helpful for me. After a few years, most people do part-time after a few years of work, which is completely fine. I mean, my second master was a part-time master, which is tough, but it's absolutely doable. Or no master at all. That's not why you're here. But in most industries, you do not need a master degree anymore. You can thrive professionally without a master degree. Let's work on the content of your master degree. The standard option would be to just continue what you're doing. You've been doing an undergrad degree in business. You're doing a master degree in business, or international business, for that matter. That would be kind of a standard option. The second option would be to specialize, and there are obviously a lot of ways where you can specialize. When we're talking about management, that could be something like finance, entrepreneurship, strategy, logistics, obviously. We're a logistics university, digital stuff, and many, many, many more options. So you can really go industry specific or topic specific, and that's what many people do. And the option 3 is to do something completely different. And that is also possible. There are actually quite a lot of master degrees that recruit from a huge variety of subjects, or even all possible subjects. So one would be public policy, where with a business degree, which would be something that you could study. There are management programs for graduates of other subjects. There are things such as IT. There are actually IT masters. In Germany, you only find 1 or 2, but if you go to Sweden, if you go to the UK, you will find quite a lot of master degrees in IT systems, in IT engineering, for people who studied non-engineering subjects before. Or sustainability. There are a lot of sustainability masters recruiting from a wide array of undergrad markets. So there's a market for everything. So the third, strategic tip is fill in your gaps. Now, people. We are all social animals, and we are influenced by our environment. We're here in Hamburg here, and I always like to use football as a metaphor because I'm German. And if you look, if you follow football here, we have Hamburger SV who fail year after year to move up to the first league, and every year they fail. So, like, they're always doing good for quite some time, and then they don't anymore. And that is collective psychology at work there. This does not happen by accident. This happens because it's somewhere deep in the minds of the people, and it's really hard when you are in a large group of people to free yourself from the general mood there. Or I give you a more concrete example. My first job was for a risk consultancy, Control Risks. It's a good company. It's a worldwide active risk consultancy. The major clients were, at the time when I worked there, from the financial industry, and I worked there 2007 to 2010. And who follows the financial industry knows that 2008 we had a complete meltdown. So basically, all our clients didn't do much more business, and some of our clients closed shop entirely. So what happened was that the company I worked for lost a lot of money, and they had to let go half of the workforce in Germany. I luckily wasn't one of the people who was let go, but the general mood when every few weeks or so another desk remains empty and the office gets emptier and emptier, and even though half of the people are at some point gone, there's still not that much work, it's a terrible mood, it's a terrible feeling, and it's really hard to free yourself from that. I mean, it's really to get out of, when everybody's really depressed at a place, it's really hard to get out of this. Why am I telling you that? Because when you are in an environment where people are highly motivated, where people are energized, where they have fun in doing what they're doing and they're interested in what they're doing, then you will get better. This is something that will affect you in your performance, in your willingness to do the work. And if you are in a less driven environment, you will stagnate. So the people you study with, it's super, super, super important that you, I mean, of course, that you are together with people that you like, but also that you are together with people who are interested and who are enthusiastic. Search for something like that. Use your networks. You know, I mean, social networks, LinkedIn, ask people, what do I mean by that? You're interested in a master's degree, find people who studied that. And you can find them on LinkedIn. Just ask them questions, contact them, ask them questions. Most people answer. Most people like to be asked for advice. Search mentors, professors, professional mentors, people you know through your work. Visit the school. I mean, well, you're here. So congrats. I mean, some of you are undergrad students here. Work together with your fellow students. So the fourth strategic tip would be, it's the people that count. Really look at the people you work with. So the last big topic that I want to cover is of, you know, where to aim with your master degree. So of course, there's a path dependency. You study at a top university. I mean, KLU, this is basically aimed at the people who already study here. And it makes sense to continue at a top institution. And of course, there are different options. You know, you can go public European university would come, if you don't go to the UK, drastically cheaper. They're scientifically strong, as reputable, sometimes even more reputable than many private schools. I mean, if you look at top schools, TU München, ETH Zurich, those are great universities, and you pay little or no fees there. Or you can stay private, or any university in the US or in Australia or in the UK for that matter, actually. They're strong in service and teaching, have great networks. They are expensive, and do check their incentives. What do I mean by that? There are in the private university sector negative incentives in the sense that they that you as students generate the income. So, of course, a university where you pay for their existence has an incentive to kind of, well, award everyone a degree. And then, and it's really hard to get out of these incentives. I mean, at KLU, you have a founder that puts a lot of money into this, so it's not really here the big problem, the big incentive problem. If you go for very highly reputable institutions, they can also get out of these incentives because they have a brand to lose, and they can still choose in a good manner, so that not everybody is being taken on. But do check their incentives, and because I've seen this at a lot of even reputable institutions that people are being taken in because they have the ability to pay a lot of money, and that's not what you want. We're here at an institution where, to the best of my information, and it would be anyway a terrible speaker here if it wasn't this case. No, but it's really different, completely different case at KLU, and at many very reputable business schools it's a different case. But this exists, and this even exists in some top schools. check rankings. They compare universities with one another. They reflect their reputation, but they're not exactly precise. Just to give you one example, there has been a 1 or 2 years ago a comparison where they in the USA you have universities that typically recruit a lot of black students, and those universities are quite badly ranked in scientific rankings. But if you compare scientific output, I mean, just real numbers that you can somehow measure with their ranking according to if you compare scientific output with reputational rankings, because reputational rankings is just feelings. It's just what people say, oh, I think that university is great, and I think that is not that great. And if you compare that, they drastically underperform, typically black universities, drastically underperform as compared to rather white universities in their rankings. And that is just a typical case of how rankings are imprecise and how how universities might be ranked for the wrong reasons. Let's put it like that. What rankings should you look at? It really depends on where you want to go. So in Germany, the biggest ranking is the CHE ranking. That's the one that is always published by Die Zeit. You have Wirtschaftswoche, which is for the non-Germans, which is a business magazine. They survey HR professionals. When we go for international, for big universities, the Times Higher Education World University Ranking, which has a very, very long name. They rank the most important international universities, scientific universities. We have U-Multi-Rank, which is international ranking from Germany. And of course, and I think if you go for business schools, that will be the most relevant for you, is the different rankings of the Financial Times. They have different rankings for MBAs, business schools, management, masters. But just to give you an idea of how rankings are made, I brought you the Times Higher Education World University Ranking, and they have 30% teaching, 30% research, 30% citations, 7.5% international, and 2.5% industry income. And only by those numbers you can see that it's kind of arbitrary, you know, like 30, 30, 30, 7.5, 2.5, who says that? You know, who says that the quality of university is made up by those numbers? Then it's partly reputation surveys. Reputation surveys are super unreliable. They're still important though, because they reflect what other people think about your university. And even though what other people think about your university might be true or might not be true, it still matters to you because it matters what other people think. So only this shows that it's kind of sort of arbitrary, but it still matters. That's what I wanted to say. And last thing, accreditations. Each program needs to be accredited. That's given by the law, and it's not that hard to get an accreditation. It's not that hard of a hurdle, actually. But there are accreditation agencies in the business area that are particularly reputable. This would be AACSB, that would be EQUIS, and that would be AMBER. And some business schools have all three, and then it's called Triple Crown. There are around 125 business schools worldwide that have that. Would that be enough of a reason to choose a university that has Triple Crown and not look at anything else? No, of course not. Please don't, yeah. Please don't choose universities just because of Triple Crown. It's one positive argument, not more, not less. That is really important because, first of all, not all institutions can actually get it. You know, you need to offer an MBA. You need to be a business school. You know, not any institution can have this. And if Triple Crown doesn't mean that an institution is absolutely great, but it's a positive thing if it has it. So, fifth strategic tip would be aim as high as you can. Okay, now that's the first part. We're a really small group, so if you have any answers about the first part, now might be a moment. If not, I'm going to continue with money. Go for money. Okay, let's go for the money. Okay, let's see with the time. Oh, we're fine with the time. Huh? Oh yeah. Umi John. Please. I don't know if this works. Otherwise, you should type it in the chat. Okay. Yeah, maybe they just hit it accidentally. It's entirely possible. Has happened to all of us, actually. Okay, so financing your master degree. What this part is about and what it isn't. This is a presentation on German funding opportunities, and there are actually quite some funding opportunities in Germany. But if you're coming from abroad, there might be options from your country as well. And that's for you to research, because that would not be my field of expertise, to be perfectly honest. Second thing is, because we have an international audience here, I wanted to be service-oriented, and I added icons everywhere as to who can apply. So the first option would be everybody is eligible who is eligible for BAföG. What does that mean? Okay, so BAföG is the public funding program by the German government if your parents don't have enough money to finance your studies. And who's eligible for BAföG would be EU citizens who have lived in Germany 5+ years or who have worked in a relevant job for 6+ months, or foreigners, non-European citizens with a permanent status or the perspective of a permanent status. Foreigners who've lived in Germany for 5+ years. And there's some more cumbersome rules. For instance, Ukrainians have some preferential access, just for example. So basically, Germans and people who have been in Germany for quite some time. That would be the first option. Second option, EU citizens, plus Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Iceland, and Norway. That normally includes them, not always. Please check yourself. And the third thing is everybody else. This means everybody can apply if they meet the individual criteria. So wherever I explain funding options, I put those icons there for you to know what are your options. So first, scholarships. There are actually, and this is an estimate, 2,300 scholarship providers for students in Germany. That's an estimate. We don't know exactly because it's really hard to count. I will tell you later why it's so hard to count. And the fifth, don't find enough qualified applicants. And I will also tell you later why this is, because it seems kind of surprising, I think. So the first one is Begabtenförderwerke. I used the German term here not by accident, but I put it there because I couldn't find really good translation. One could say it's the gifted and talented funding. Okay, I will just use the German word Begabtenförderwerke. What do they do? All important societal groups have their own Begabtenförderwerk. Who are those? Political parties are important societal groups, and all parties that are traditional in the Bundestag have one. So all except the right-wing AfD. And everybody can apply to the political foundations. Then religious groups, and here it's quite an interesting difference. Whilst you can apply for funding from the political foundations, for the religious foundations, you need to be German or have a permanent status. Unions and businesses have each one, Böckler Stiftung and Stiftung der Deutschen Wirtschaft, and the German federal government with the Studienstiftung des Deutschen Volkes. It's quite interesting how it's different who can apply there. What can you get from them? So the money all comes from the federal government. They have kind of for the political foundations, basically, the amount of money they get depends on the amount of votes they get during the last 8 years. So, the money from the federal government, what do you get? If you're eligible, you get the BAföG from them, the federal funding if your parents don't have enough money to finance your studies, plus you get 300 euros of monthly allowance. Foreigners get much more, actually. So if you're eligible, if you are non-German and you apply to one of the political foundations and you've been taken on, you get much more than the 300 euros. It's quite individual what you get. And that is probably most important, a lot of individual support, a lot of contacts, networks, workshops, events. It's really, really cool what they give you. What they are the requirements. So it's individual achievements, so basically your grades, your community involvement, so you need to be active, you need to, say you're a student representative, you work for a political party, you work for the environment, whatever, community involvement. They want you to be close to their worldview. What do I mean by that? Let's say the Böll Foundation, they are close to the Green Party, and topics that they focus on are things such as sustainability or gender, things like that. So you would need to explain how you are close to their worldview. If you look at the Naumann Foundation, which is also a political foundation that is close to the Free Democratic Party, there it's more about their definition of freedom that you have to work on. And diversity helps because typical people who apply there are white male people who study something with economics, politics, or law. But really, most important are those things. If you have reasonably good grades and if you're active socially, those are the most important things. Apply as early as possible. Because they want you to be in there for quite a long time. Deutscher Akademischer Austauschdienst. This is also government funded, and it pays for Germans going abroad and for foreigners coming to Germany. Those are basically the two things. Germans that go to another country and foreigners coming to Germany. I myself was a scholarship holder of Deutscher Akademischer Austauschdienst, and they have scholarships for a lot of stuff actually. For internships, not all internships, it's rather when you do internship at the UN or other international organizations. For summer courses, many people don't know there's a whole system of summer courses in Europe. It's super cool actually. You go to Spain during the summer semester break for 3 weeks and do a summer course on XYZ, on a lot of interesting stuff. And the AAD might finance that, It's really cool. For your bachelor thesis, you do your bachelor thesis on some international topic. You need to go abroad. You need to spend 3 months in Chile. There are funding opportunities for that, to do your research in Chile or any other country. And master degrees. You do your master degree abroad, or you come from abroad and do your master degree in Germany. What they normally pay is kind of the minimum of what you need in the respective country to live, and the minimum tuition fees. Example for the UK, they pay up to 18,000 euros in fees, which for a business degree isn't enough. But say if you study anything else than business, this normally covers your fees in the UK, and a bit more than 1,000 euros per month, which definitely in London would be ridiculous to live from. Plus travel costs, but anyway, even if it's not, if it doesn't fully cover your costs, that's really significant. For instance, a master in Germany will pay you not that much, and if you live in Hamburg, it's definitely not enough. I think they just increased the number. I think the number is not current anymore. It should be a bit more than 900 euros by now. I'm sorry about that, but it's say around 900 euros what they give you per month. And obviously, this is for everybody. Then Erasmus Plus, that's the program, I mean, the scholarship program of the EU. You do a semester or 2 semesters abroad. You pay no tuition fees. You get 450 euros per month. You apply at your university. That's that's pretty basic internationally. I think the DAAD is much more interesting, really. And you also don't need to have a German passport or even a European passport to take part. But there are so many more. Because, you know, when I told you that there are like 2,300 different organizations that give scholarships for students, I basically brought you some of the crazier ones, just to give you an idea of what there is. For instance, there's Anton und Helene Serena Stiftung, which supports disadvantaged students from Lübeck who are studying in Berlin. It exists. The Emily Postel Stiftung is for needy daughters of Bavarian civil servants. I don't know the English word for that. In Germany, we would say sehr spitze Zielgruppe. It's really, not that many people. Schönisch Lebensstiftung zu Pattensen is for Christian students from the Pattensen region. Pattensen is southeast of Hanover. It's where my grandparents come from. Das Fritz-Prosiegel-Stipendium, it's for native Hamburg students whose parents are both teachers. So it's local. If your parents are both teachers, both, it's really important, then that might be something for you. Gustav Schickedanz Stiftung is for Protestant students who've lived in Bavaria for 5+ years. Anti-Streber-Stipendium, I just like the title so much. So it's basically, what is a Streber in English? Yeah, maybe. Oh no, nerd. It's like, but anyway, yeah, the anti-nerd scholarship. I'm not sure. It's for people who have discontinuities in their CV. So basically, I don't know. You go to Bali and start a surf school there and fail with it, and then maybe do that. Why did I bring you those crazy examples? Anybody can start a scholarship for students. And, you know, like I could tomorrow start the Sebastian Horndash scholarship if I wanted to and if I had the money. And many people do exactly that. They do start a scholarship. And the richer a region, the more scholarships there are. Hamburg is one of the wealthier regions in Germany. So this is a region where you will find a lot of those local scholarships. Bavaria, Baden-Württemberg, Frankfurt region. Those regions are those where you find the most. And of course, in Eastern Germany, you find the least because there you don't have much old money. Here we go. But this is a bit less crazy. Kölner Gymnasialen Stiftungsfonds, this support for gifted people all over Germany. So I added some that are not that crazy. Carlo Schmidt program is for internships in non-governmental organizations. Where will you find infos? Here. So German search engines would be Stipendiendatenbank or My Stipendium. International, you can look at DAAD. And the Begabtenförderwerke, those gifted student scholarship organizations, you will find at stipendiumplus.de, where they all have a website together. Sorry, you still need it? No problem. All right. Okay, so let's talk about loans. I will present you the 3 most important student loans in Germany. Info and comparison you will find at the CHE Studienkredit Test, which is an annual publication by Center for Hochschulentwicklung. Center for Higher Education Development. There you go. So, KfW Studienkredit, that would be the first. You need to be European for that. So KfW is state-owned bank, but the conditions are actually not that great, really. So you get 650 euros per month, which is not even enough to eat and live. You can study. You can get the money for a bit longer than the regular study period, then you have a grace period, and then you have to pay back. and there's no collateral required. And you can get it if you're a EU citizen and you have resided in Germany for 3+ years. But study abroad is not possible. Erasmus, yes. I mean, semester abroad, yes. But general study abroad, like going abroad, do your master in England, in France, wherever, not possible. And the interest rate is quite high, 7.5% as of today. And that's quite a high interest rate. Why is the interest rate so high? This loan was conceived in 2006. At the time, the budgets were quite empty, and the federal government decided to not make this a state-supported loan. That means that the interest rate is basically the market interest rate. They need to make money on this. They need to factor in people who default on their credits. They need to factor in everything, their bureaucracy and stuff. So that's what you get right now. So the pro is money, but it's not really that much of an attractive credit. KfW Bildungskredit sounds almost the same. It's only for Germans, unfortunately. There you get much less money, up to 300 euros per month for a maximum 24 months. But the pro is that the interest rate is relatively low. I mean, 4.87% is also quite high, but this is what it is right now, because this is basically a state-supported loan, and if the interest rate should go down, this will also go down. For many years, I've told people, oh, this is such a great loan because you only pay 0.5% interest rate, and that was true 2 years ago. It's not true right now. We don't know how it will develop in the future, but this is at least a state-supported interest rate. So will you be able to finance your studies through this? No, of course not. But in most cases, when you put together your finances, you will get your money from different sources. I mean, if you're super lucky and your parents are able to support your studies 100%, that's great. But if this is not the case, you will get your money from different sources. And this is definitely a credit that has rather favorable conditions, and that might be helpful if you are German or if you have been residing in Germany for a long time. The last thing is Bildungsfonds, and that's quite an interesting model, because there you don't have a fixed interest rate, but you pay back a percentage of your future salary for a certain period of time. And this is something that a lot of people finance their studies with when they go private. They have a selection process. A lot of universities offer such deals as part of a collaboration with a provider like that. The con is if you earn well, you lose money. I mean, the companies offering that, they want to make money. They want to make surplus, so they will only take people that they think will be successful. And if you are successful, of course, you will pay back much more than you got. However, you don't have a big debt risk, because I mean, negative things might happen. You know, you might have a bike accident and not be able to work full time because you broke all your bones. Whatever. I mean, like negative things might happen in your life that don't have anything to do with your personal motivation or capabilities. And here you have something where if things don't go according to plan, you only pay back a fraction of what you got. And the loan amount is quite flexible. Who are there? There's Deutsche Bildung, that's for Germans. Then you have Brain Capital. A lot of universities work with Brain Capital. Do you work? You work. I could have guessed. KLU works with Brain Capital. And there's Lendors, which is for internationals and only for internationals who come to Germany to study. Saving taxes. If you plan to stay in Germany after your master's degree, you will get back part of what you paid for your master's studies. And what is this? This should be the symbol for infinite, because that's the amount that you can deduct from your taxes, at least in principle. So the principle in Germany is that all training costs are tax deductible in the same year. If I pay taxes, I do a training right now, whatever, I have costs through the training, I can deduct that from the taxes I pay in this year. That's pretty obvious. I'm sure that it's the same in most countries, but there's an exception. If you have training costs that are after your initial training, they are deductible from your subsequent taxes. What do I mean by that? I mean by that the following. Your initial training would be your bachelor's degree, and your further training would be your master's degree. So whilst you normally don't pay tax during your master's degree because you don't work or you don't work much, your master's degree being tax deductible doesn't really help you that much if you deduct it in the same year, but you can deduct it from later years when you have a good income. Let's see how this looks. The standard case would be you go to high school, then you do a bachelor, and you do a master's degree. In that case, the master's degree is fully tax deductible. The very German special case would be a so-called Ausbildung, an apprenticeship. In that case, the bachelor and the master would be tax deductible. And it's important that it's subsequent. If you did a dual a bachelor degree, that doesn't count. It needs to be first you finish your Ausbildung and your apprenticeship, then you do your bachelor, then you do your master. But in that case, the bachelor is deductible from your future tax. And that's pretty interesting, actually. Important, the tax agency, they want to see that there's a connection in terms of content and time. So your future job must be related to your studies, but being loosely related is enough. So if it's a job that requires an academic education, that's kind of enough. If you, I don't know, if you drive a taxi, they probably would not accept that. So what is deductible? A lot. Tuition fees, obviously. So that's quite an interesting part. Travel expenses. And travel expenses would be your daily commute to the university. You have 5 kilometers, so that's 10 kilometers per day back and forth. And that's 30 cents per kilometer. Over time, this adds up. Books, computer software licenses, language courses, interest rates on loans, in case of distance learning, study room, and in case of double housekeeping, but that's really only when you are married, for instance, then you might deduct the cost of your apartment, but normally this doesn't work. This really works in special cases. You have kids and you have a spouse somewhere else, such cases. One example, you deduct 20K for your master's degree. If you study here at KLU, you will and pay the full tuition, you will obviously pay more than that. In your first year of employment, you earn 55K, and you will, with the deducted costs, pay taxes if you had earned 35K. It's a very, very simplified example, obviously, but it also shows that the more you earn, the higher the percentage of money you get back, because it really depends on your tax rate. If your tax rate is rather low, it means that you don't get that much money back. If your tax rate is high, you will get much more money back. Just for you, rule of thumb, you can expect to get around a third of the tax deductible money back. Around a third. This is just for you to have a very, very, very broad idea. Don't don't call me a few years later and say, oh, it was only 25%, Sebastian, you lied to me. No, it's just a rule of thumb so that you have a basic idea. And that's at least quite a good outlook. There's a website, Studis Online. They have a huge article on that. So if you are German native, Studis Online is really good. Und Studentensteuererklärung.de is auch, that's a private company. So I would recommend particularly the article at Studis Online on that. Now, getting in to university. Oh, wait. I asked before if you have any questions about the finances. Do you have any questions for me? Okay, then we're moving on. Getting into university. So what you might expect when you apply to university would be that you might have to provide a motivation letter and a CV, letter of recommendation, interviews, standardized tests such as GMAT, TOEFL, and many others, essays, or individual tests. obviously I cannot tell you about essays, but I can tell you about all the other things. So, motivation letter. The main point of a motivation letter is your qualification and not your motivation. I've read quite a lot of motivation letters in my life, and it's a classic mistake that you write all the time how motivated you are, but you don't really write much more, and that's pretty boring for the people reading it. So it should really contain your story. What did you do? Why did you do it? What were the things that led you to your decisions? What do you want to do with your master? What is your goal? Why that particular university? Why that particular program? Any program, any university has something special about it. You should really show that you thought about these things. The length of a typical motivation letter would be 500 to 600 words. That's around one full page. If you don't find the university telling you something different, maybe they want something longer, maybe they want something shorter, read what the university wants. But if they don't write anything, 500 to 600 words is a reasonable amount of content. Now for the structure, I know ChatGPT. Of course you will start with ChatGPT producing a motivation letter for you, and that's great. Do it, but don't send it, because what ChatGPT produces sounds great, but it also sounds fake. So use your own structure, use your own story. I think that at this point, artificial intelligence can provide really helpful feedback. It can improve your storytelling. It can improve your wording. It can give you great ideas of how to structure your content. So it's really helpful tool, and I use it as well. I mean, of course I use it as well. But I've also, there's been moments. I mean, in my main job, I quite often need to draft copy for larger audiences. Like texts that go out to 1,000, 10,000 people or something like that, and I found that when I was too lazy, and I have these moments as well where I'm too lazy, and I let ChatGPT draft it, and then only casually read over it, and then it reads good to me, and then luckily I'm smart enough to give it to a colleague or two and tell them, hey, can you have a look at it? I will send this out to so many people. Please give me your feedback. And when I was very lazy and only had ChatGPT do it, I would get terrible feedback. and those colleagues would be right, because it sounds good on a superficial level, but if you really think about it, a lot is fake and doesn't make that much sense. So it's really, you can easily fool yourself. So tell your story. Tell your story mostly from past to present to the future. Find your own structure. Find your own words. Find your own personality that shows in your motivation letter. You just have to realize that all the people who are sitting there reading those motivation letters, if they all read the same, it's incredibly boring. It can be quite annoying. If you really find your own story, you will catch their attention. Then let's come to tests. There's 3 kinds of tests that you might have to do: language tests, general aptitude tests, and institution-specific aptitude tests. Language tests are quite obvious. If you're not a native in the required language, you need to do a test. For instance, TOEFL test costs normally 220, 250, 300 euros, depending on the test. The most established general aptitude tests would be the GMAT, or in non-business cases, the GRE. The GMAT tests mathematical, linguistic, analytical abilities. Costs, if you do it online, 300 euros. Business schools quite often require a certain score, and those aptitude tests, well, actually any aptitude tests, they are highly trainable. You can work a lot in improving your test results. So do that. If you have to do a GMAT or any other kind of aptitude tests. And if it's not institution specific, because if it's institution specific, it's harder to train because you will find less material. But there are so many different aptitude tests. I mean, you know, you want to work later for the EU Commission. They have basically an aptitude test that you have to do to become part of the pool of candidates there. Those are all highly trainable tests, and you can drastically improve. Institution-specific aptitude test, that's of course a lot harder to prepare for. So there, try to research, try to talk to people what the test might contain, so that you are not, at least not too insecure when you get into the situation. Try to find people, maybe ask people on LinkedIn, hey, I saw that you studied that in that program, I'm applying there, you know, maybe things have changed since, but I would be super grateful if you could tell me a bit about the process, something like that. Try to somehow gather information, because that will help you to at least be more secure in what you do. You know, because if it's all completely foggy and unclear, you will be more insecure and then more prone to mistakes. A few interview tips. I mean, most of you had job interviews, so I'm not telling you something new. I'm not going to give you a list of typical interview questions, because for that, ChatGPT is brilliant. You know, like just have ChatGPT interview you for a job. It's really good at that. A few do's, a few don'ts for interviews. Show deep knowledge about the institution. Just, I mean, we've in the last couple of years we hired a lot of people, and I mean, it's really crazy how showing institution knowledge makes a difference. If I see that people have really read about us, you know, have read about what we do, what our priorities are, and it shows during the interview. It really gives you a very positive feeling as an interviewer, because you feel valued, actually. Then again, if somebody has barely read anything and only knows the name of your institution and somehow got into the interview, and they say things that even 15 minutes of reading the most basic about us pages would have taught them otherwise, that's really a red flag, because it really reflects negatively on the people. So show knowledge about the institution. Know what you wrote in your motivation letter and CV. Read it before, write before, and always tell a story. Always tell stories. Situation, reaction, result. I had this and that situation. I reacted that way. This is how what I did. And the result was X and Y. Don't be arrogant, don't be unprepared, and don't say I already answered that question in my motivation letter, because the people interviewing you, they might actually not be 100% aware what is written in your letter. So for the preparation, prepare good answers for standard questions. You will find lists of standard questions everywhere on the internet, or for that, as I said, ChatGPT is pretty good. Read the website intensively. Read what people write about them. And this is also true for any job interview. Read what people say about themselves. And try to find out who will do your interview, and then research what they're doing. Research their papers, research what they're doing. It's pretty simple. And I know those are really obvious tips, but maybe they have a LinkedIn profile. Maybe they're really active in the LinkedIn profile. Check out their last 10, 15 posts. This will be really helpful. Then most programs require a letter of recommendations or a letter of reference. What does that mean? Letter of recommendation is individual for programs and institutions. That's a likely option. Or letter of reference is a general one, to whom it may concern. That means a letter of reference would be not institution specific. That would be something where a professor of yours or a professional contact of yours writes a general letter about you that is not institution specific, but that is general for any kind of master degree, for example. That's the difference between letter of recommendation and letter of reference. In both cases, 300 to 400 words, and of course conditions apply. Always look at what institutions really want from you. What should be the content of such a letter, and how to make sure that it does? Of course, the school and the program you apply to, explanation of how the person knows you, examples of your accomplishments, and of course a very strong endorsement. And how to make sure it does contain all that, you provide the relevant information to the person who should give you a letter of recommendation. You ask them well in advance. You provide a lot of info, CV, background info, anything that helps them. Make it as readable as possible, bullet points, so that people ideally can just copy and paste your stuff. Yeah, on time. That's really helpful, actually. And choose the right persons to endorse you and give them, yeah, as I said, any helpful information. And last thing, I think we're also time-wise. Ooh, we're over, but this is the shortest part, because basically it all boils down to one tip that has really, really helped me in my career, which is actually networking. I mean, if you're here at KLU and at any great business school, you will have a strong alumni network. That's one of the strengths of such institutions. You will have professors, academic staff that have extensive networks and that have time for you to share those networks, which is really helpful. But you can also join professional associations. You can try to seek mentorship. And a mentor can be a professor. A mentor can be somebody you know from an internship. But basically, what I quite often did, and how I actually also got the job that I have right now, is ask people for coffee. What do I mean by that? Have some common interest, some way of connecting. I better tell the story of a friend, not mine. So a friend of mine, she focused in her master's degree on the culture of indigenous people, which is rather specific, I would say. The UNESCO in Paris, they have a program of culture and indigenous people, and she wrote the boss of that program while she was doing her master's degree, while she was writing her master's thesis, to be precise. Hey, I'm writing a master's thesis on culture and of indigenous people, something in Argentina. If she wanted to meet for lunch, because they obviously had a common topic, and they met for lunch. And out of the lunch came an internship, and out of that internship came a 7-year employment. I mean, now she does something else, but a 7-year employment for UNESCO. And it all started by a common interest and by having a lunch together. And UNESCO pays quite well, actually. It's pretty amazing, because you don't pay taxes when you work for international organizations, which really makes it quite profitable. Anyway, what I want to say is, I did this, I learned from her. When I was in my early 20s, I didn't have the guts to do that. But I really learned from her. And this really, really works. Ask people friendly, have some common topic, maybe because you did a thesis, maybe you did a project, maybe you have an interest. Just ask them, hey, I see we have a common topic. I saw you spoke at a conference. I found it very insightful. You know, maybe the talk is on YouTube, whatever. I'm working on this as well. Would you like to have a chat with me over coffee? Ask people for coffee. The success rate is really, really high. It's very, very helpful. This is one of the best things I've learned professionally, because it's a bit for me, definitely. I'm not one of the people for whom it came that natural to cold email people. You know, but it's so helpful and it's so powerful to do that. And of course, yeah, do the right internships and jobs. Many students find their first jobs through internship and work experience. Choose strategically. Also in my case, my first job came through an internship. And this is really the case for many, many people. That's it. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's the only non-AI generated photo in this whole presentation. I thank you very, very much. And if you have any questions, please, I'm here. Thank you.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Now, for those who are in person or online, it's the student panel time. Now it's your time to shine and ask the questions. You can join our Menti with a QR code, and you can type in the questions you want to ask to our alumni. Well, before we go on, I would ask the alumni and also the current students to present themselves, what study program they did or what they're currently in, and for the alumni, where you're working, what sector, and so on. Yeah, you can start first.
Okay, then I guess I'll start. My name is Annalena. I did the master's in global logistics and supply chain management. I graduated back in 2021. And nowadays I work at 4Flow, which is a supply chain and logistics consulting company, and do project work there.
Good. Then I'll continue. I'm Monica Magaña. I also studied the Master's in Global Logistics and Supply Chain Management, but I graduated in 2020, epic year to do the graduation. And ever since I finished my studies, I also joined supply chain consulting with a main focus on supply chain planning. And I'm working at Camelot at the moment, doing pretty much projects between demand planning, supply planning, and now logistics planning.
Is it? Oh, it's working. Hi, everyone. My name is Vaso. I'm from Greece, and I'm currently doing the Master's in Global Logistics and Supply Chain Management. I'm in my second semester, and yeah, I think that's all for now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katerina. I'm from Ukraine, and I'm in my first year of Bachelor. I'm studying business administration.
Thank you to the alumni. Now it's your time, as I said, to ask the questions. You have the you have the code over there. You go to Menti, and the code is 66867642. And feel free to type in questions, and our panel here is answering them for you. Meanwhile, the audience also online could ask the questions. I will start with the first question. We usually gather, so we get the flow on topic. What is a typical day of a KLU student? Maybe the current cohort can answer that.
Okay, I can answer that. Typical day. Well, I wake up usually at 6:30. Then I take a bus, and then U-Bahn, and then bus again. And then I arrive at KLU. Usually we have lectures starting from the morning, 8:30. Then we'll have lectures around 3 hours, but of course with small breaks in between. Then we have a lunch break, 1 hour, and then we have another lecture. So usually we spend the whole day at the university, but lectures can be not every day. Sometimes we have breaks between them. Also, we have extracurricular activities. For example, I'm a vice president of Sustainability Club, and also I'm a member of Ambassador Club. So if you want, you can even spend more time at the university and engage in many projects and so on. But yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, I would say it's... Does it work? Okay. I would say it's changing each quarter, but personally I have classes usually at 8:30 or 4:15, so it's kind of changing weekly as well. And depends on how many courses you have. Other than that, it's pretty much similar to what Katerina said.
I think this question would fall for the alumni. Describe your career path after KLU. How did your studies prepare you for the role that you're currently in, or any role that you undertook after studying here?
I'll begin. So my career path after the KLU was mainly driven also due to the main courses that I focused during my studies. So I always wanted to develop myself in the intersection of supply chain planning and data science. So I did my master thesis actually in this field, kind of developing a forecasting approach for Bayersdorf. And it was kind of the beginning for me to actually focusing so much more in forecasting and demand planning. Then as soon as I graduated, then I got a job in consulting, as I mentioned earlier, especially with a main focus on demand planning projects. And in there, I got the chance to be able to work making projects with customers on supporting them how to improve their demand planning processes, how to forecast their products in a better way, and also doing a lot of programming on the side, developing an own demand planning tool. So I think in that sense, the courses at the KLU actually allowed me to prepare very well, to have a very good background in terms of the functional topics like demand planning, for example, but at the same time, I always wanted to continue programming, and I got the chance also during my studies to have courses in R, in Python, that actually I could directly leverage in my first job. Then, because I love supply chain planning in general so much, and I wanted to see the end-to-end perspective, I jumped from demand planning to supply planning, which I found so much more interesting to be able to kind of get the connection of actually what are the different agents and the main, let's say, processes in supply chain planning are. And then finally, I got now two projects in supply planning, which allowed me to actually be able to understand the network, the pain points for a lot of customers in different industries, also what they have to deal with, let's say, on a daily basis. And now I jump to logistics planning, kind of going back again to what I originally studied. So I think in general, if you ask me, how did the KLU really helped me throughout my career path, I always got like this very strong basis of different processes in supply chain. I can really tell that during the studies we got like this end-to-end point of view, and now I'm also being able to leverage it directly in my job in different projects, and now kind of being able to see also in the industry how this, let's say, main problems that you see in a theoretical point of view, how they actually get translated into daily business and how you can actually solve them. In just a few sentences.
Just a few sentences, sure. So I guess, first of all, yeah, I do know you. First of all, it's also totally okay to study supply chain management and not love supply chain planning, because for me, I hate it. And also my career path wasn't as straightforward as yours. But that's also okay. So for me, after I graduated, I joined Amazon and I worked in operations. I worked in the last mile delivery station as a shift manager. And so my job was more focused on the on-road management. So, you know, when you guys order something, and you probably wonder, how does that work, that I get, you know, my package that night. That's basically the stuff that I did, that my day-to-day business consisted of. But then I decided that I wanted to do consulting because, to be honest, operations, it's super exciting, but after some time, it kind of gets, it gets repetitive, because especially the processes at Amazon, they are so well defined. The people know what they have to do and what is expected of them. So the learning curve at first was very, very steep, but it definitely flattened out, I guess, sooner than I expected. And we also had this talk quite a lot. I think if someone would have asked me during my time at KLU if I would ever end up in consulting, I would have said, hell no. Like for real, like that's I'm that serious. So Monica's always like laughing at me, because now I'm working in consulting for more than 2 years. I worked for Accenture and then switched to 4Flow last year, and really focused on supply chain and logistics stuff. But I think what I guess my studies really prepared me for were those different career steps, because during the studies, even though it is practical here at KLU, and you do get a lot of insights into companies and how I guess the real world also works, it is also highly theoretical, because it's a university. They have to teach you theory, and that's okay. So during my time at Amazon, I actually saw how logistics processes work, and now during my consulting job, I get to, I guess, see in companies how they do it, and I also get to tell them, hey, this is how you do it, but this is how you could do it better, and this is how you get there, that you actually are more efficient or more sustainable, or whatever the goal is, because that also depends on the project. So I guess a lot of the theoretical and methodology, yeah, that word, that I learned during my time at KLU that actually prepared me for what I do nowadays. So yeah.
That sounds cool, I must say. I mean, we have two questions here regarding work and study. One says I'm working full time, and the other one is like, is it possible to work and study? I think all of us can answer it. It totally is possible. I work and study. Of course, in the first semester, I would not recommend it because you have to get adapted to the whole like system and how university works and how are the lectures and whatsoever. But for me personally, it works, and all my friends in my cohort, all of them are working and studying 15, 20 hours usually. So you could also pick up and maybe like answer on that, but.
Yeah, sorry, I can add about working in first semester. Well, I hadn't any other choice as to work because I don't receive any scholarships, BAföG and whatever. So yeah, it can be kind of exhaustive to work and study, but it is possible. And I passed all the exams with no issues with first attempt. And I work every day for 2.5 hours, and in total 13 hours a week. So yeah, but you should be prepared to work really hard on weekends and prepare for your exams and to have time to do it.
I think I can also add, I also worked during my studies. I worked on the second half of my stay here at the KLU, and I have to say, as an international student, it really gives you the opportunity to kind of prove afterwards that you've already worked in Hamburg. In general, for a German company, that really made a difference when I was looking for jobs, so I can highly recommend. On the other hand, looking back, I do appreciate the chance to be able to do it, but I think also seizing the chance to really immerse into the studies and enjoy those 2 years, that would have also been nice to be able to see. So if you have the chance to actually not work, I would highly suggest that you really just make a deep dive, because those are going to be the last 2 years, if you're not planning to do a PhD, to actually be a student and enjoy all of the other possibilities that goes like with networking activities and connecting with other people and making a deep dive in different topics that you would really like to focus on and try out. And if you start working right away, you might lose that chance. So I think there's pros and cons. I did it. I'm happy that I did it. It worked out for me. But if you have the chance, also consider it to just embrace the time of being a student. You will miss it. Believe me.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely believe Monica, but yeah, I also worked as a working student the entire 2 years, and I can definitely agree with you. The first semester, that was hard because I worked 20 hours a week, and especially, I don't know if it's still like that, but in the first quarter at least of the first semester, you have a lot of classes. So for me, like, I basically like went back and forth. Like if I wasn't in uni, then I was at Bayersdorf. If I wasn't at Bayersdorf, I was at the KLU. So it was really exhaustive. I can definitely agree with that point. But in general, I think it's nice, to really see how companies work, and you learn a lot because, as I said before, like what you get taught here is highly theoretical, and the working experience is at the end of the day something that really helps you after graduation too, because you do know how to work, you do know how to structure yourself with schoolwork, but also with the real work, I guess. And you have the chance to also figure out what you want to do career-wise, if you want to be in, I guess, a company like Bayersdorf, or if you want to do consulting, or if you want to do something totally different. And that's something that professors can teach you, and that's also something that you have to find out for yourself. And I do think, as a working student, that's the ideal opportunity, and you don't have to stay at the same company for 2 years as well. Like, you can do 6 months here and 6 months there, so that you really get a broad experience and can later on decide for yourself better, if you don't know already, what you want to do after you graduate.
Moving on to the next question, does the university offer any networking opportunities? I mean, definitely we do. We have a career service about that. We have 2 events. We have one event each semester where we have company representative. A lot of students actually got their internship through those 101 pitches. And then we also have guest lectures throughout different lectures. And then, of course, afterwards you can ask them. We have workshops with different companies. So there's the whole time this opportunity. We have the alumni here. So anytime, I guess that also brings more opportunity for us towards that. So how hard were the exams? I mean, that's a tricky question, but feel free who wants to answer that.
So yeah, I think it depends how well you prepare for it. Some exams are easier than others, I would say. Depends on the topic as well. But yeah, I would suggest don't leave everything at the last minute. I think if you spend maybe 1 hour every day studying on a topic, then I think you will be fine. But yeah, if you start like 3 days before the exams, then I could say it can get hard.
Somebody else?
Yeah, I agree. Like as I said, I passed all the exams. Even I'm a working student, but I spent a lot of time for such subjects, for example, as math, because I'm not good at math. But you have any opportunity to get any help from your classmates, from professors. If you don't understand anything or you miss something, you can rewatch the lecture, for example. But yeah, as Vasha mentioned, you should definitely spend some time studying for it. And you will get any material you need for it, so there should be any problem. Like anywhere else, you should just be prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean, also at KLU, usually the grade is not 100% exam-based, so usually there are projects or assignments which help you prepare for it and make it easier for you to pass and like get a good grade. What is or was your favorite course and why? Whoever wants, you can all answer that.
I've always found it quite ironic that my favorite topic was leadership and organizational behavior, even though the master's is in global logistics and supply chain management. And I think for me it was quite an important topic to make a deep dive, especially being as an international student, kind of like to see, let's say, a German perspective about how companies work in general and kind of like which kind of leadership styles there are, but also to take into consideration the different cultures that you have when you're working in a team. And I think as a big part was KLU, definitely a big influence, because having such a diverse group of colleagues and friends definitely allows you to know how to work so much more with people with different backgrounds, with different cultures, and it was already kind of a head start. But I definitely see the benefit now that I'm working, how much I actually learned on that class and how it's actually represented in daily life. Because in consulting, yes, we might be doing a lot of supply chain, but at the end it's a people business. And a lot of the main elements that I have to take into consideration actually were taught directly in the first semester in that class. So Niels is always, well, remember the first time that I told him that, he was laughing and very proud of it, but honestly it is the truth. Among that, also strategic issues in supply chain management, that was also one of my highlights, I have to say, because it was really exactly taking a deep dive in from an end-to-end perspective, which kind of major pain points you might have and how to actually solve them, just in a couple of sentences. But at the end, let's say those 2 courses were definitely what I have to deal with in my daily life at work. And I have to appreciate, like, really both professors also made an amazing job on showcasing not only the theoretical part but also the practical side out of it. And yeah, if I could repeat them, I would definitely do them again. Not for the exams though, but for the course.
Yeah, I mean, apart from those 2 courses, I also really liked sustainable logistics, which is funny because I don't do anything with sustainability nowadays. But yeah, it's really cool to see what, I guess, innovation is out there and also what impact it could have. So I really like that course. And also, actually, the exam was okay, I think. Yeah.
So my favorite until now would be humanitarian logistics because it shows that it's not just about the product and the customer, but then you have situations like natural disaster, man-made disasters, where logistics play a very vital role in saving people. So yeah, I would say that was a very different perspective in the logistics sector, and the structure of the course was also very nice because we had the chance to get as practical as possible with a full day-long simulation, which was very tiring but amazing. And yeah, I do like the leadership course as well, though, and the sustainable logistics as well.
Okay, I will add something else. Well, it's a hard question for me because in the first year you have like these general basic courses for business administration, like fundamentals of accounting, management and strategy, logistics, and so on. And I came here to KLU to study sustainability, but it will start even in third year, where I will have specifically the courses for this specification. But what I can tell that no matter whether I'm interested in a subject or not, our professors are great, and it's really interesting to listen to their lectures. And I can even say that I enjoyed math and microeconomics, even though I'm not really great at it, because you have that feeling that you really master something and you get better and better. And like you expand your knowledge, and it's really interesting. And usually we have different kind of tasks, like group works and projects, where we can really bring our skills and knowledge to the practice. And yeah, it's very, how would say, differentiative, I don't know, variable.
Yeah. I mean, to add up, I haven't finished all the bachelor courses, and it's very hard to pick just one class, as it was a lot. I would say micro and macro, I know, are challenging and everything, but very insightful for the business world. And I would top up the innovation and new business venture class. That was very interesting. It had that entrepreneur spirit, startup, and the whole behind process. So it was cool. We got another question. Does KLU support in job opportunities? I mean, this was kind of already answered beforehand with the career services. I would like to top it up with the last question that I always do is, what has been the highlight, or what is your highlight of KLU and your studies here? Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Hard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we get like, just to give a bit of idea, if I would say mine is definitely the Oscars night, even though I don't do, as bachelors, we're not the ones who make the movies, still it's fun. Personally, I would say is that I founded my own club, and like we do that gala nights, and it's like women in business, and we empower female fellows. And then I would say my semester abroad is like definitely the top highlight, because it was cool and you don't study. But yeah, to give you now an idea. Now I give too many ideas, I think.
You said you don't study in the semester abroad?
I mean, it's not that you don't study, but it's just like that fun experience. Don't get me wrong. It's you get that fun experience, and since you don't have to bring back grades that don't influence your GPA, then you can be a bit loosened and, you know, yeah, have more fun.
I think for me, actually, my highlight was the international network that you end up having after your studies. Since after our studies, I mean, a lot of our friends actually went back to their respective countries because of Corona. And now it's actually quite nice to see that you have people working in different fields. For example, in logistics, I have friends that are working in India and in Thailand, and still you have these opportunities to connect with them. And since we have like such a good time, but also like a very nice opportunity to get along and create like very close relationships with your cohort and with your colleagues, I think those relationships really can last for so much longer. And being able to now kind of graduate and already have such an international network that is spread all over the world, I think it's really one of the highlights. That I could see kind of remain after my studies is still active, and also supports for a lot of opportunities later on. You're asking about whether KLU supporting job opportunities. In a sense, yes, but also the KLU alumni network also helps a lot. Like my working student job that I had at Bayersdorf was also because of another KLU Mexican girl working in that specific department that actually we then passed over the job to me. And I think this kind of network and support that we also give each other outside of the university definitely remains over time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my highlight should have been my semester abroad, but that was canceled due to COVID during that time. And I also can't say graduation because I didn't attend because I started working. So actually, I think my highlight was the first week, because you really get to know your peers. You have a lot of activities that you can attend, like a tour like through the Hafen or the harbor. You have several dinners and drinks, and it's really cool because, it's also nice to go out for dinner and have some drinks, but it's also a really cool opportunity to get to know the people that you're gonna spend a lot of time with for the next 2 years. And you get to know them on like a different level, on like a personal level, of course, and not during classwork where you are also kind of dependent on their performance in group situations, for instance. And actually, my like best friend from KLU, that was the first person I talked to on the first day, and to this day he's like my best buddy. So really like cherish those opportunities and use them wisely.
I would also say the Oscar night. It was, especially because for us in the Masters, it was the first group project that we had to do, and we had to produce a short film, and then it was presented in the Oscar nights, and we had to do it with people that we met for the first time, and it was very interesting. And during the Oscar nights, I think everybody had a blast. And I would also say the networking at all the people we meet here in KLU from different backgrounds, different cultures, which is it's very nice to have friends from all over the world. So yeah, that would definitely be my highlights.
To be honest, I don't know what to say because I like everything that's happening here. What can I highlight? It may be the overall atmosphere of how open people here are, how international the university is, where you can meet the people from any corner of the world and become friends with them and maybe then visit, I don't know. So yeah, and how initiative KLU is. We just created our own sustainability club, of course with the help of student services, but if you got any idea, you can approach professors or student services and you'll get any help. So yeah, that's my highlight.
Yeah. I'd like to thank the audience, and we hope you got an insight and now you know better KLU and you make the decision to come and study here. I would invite you all to go outside, grab a drink or grab a crepes, and then grab a student ambassador and join for a campus tour. Thank you.